This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Ben Turney, who is the CEO of Kavango Resources, joins us today following news about expansion drilling at your KSZ project in Botswana and a subsequent placing to raise £1.94 million. So Ben, you've raised a lot of money, you've announced this placing. People might be concerned that you'd previously stated that you were fully funded. So why have you had to go and raise this money now?
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me. Look, it's a good question, and I know that this is one of the sore spots for a lot of private investors in the microcap world. You hear company directors tell you they're fully funded, and before you know it, there's a heavily discounted placing around the corner just to keep the lights on. It's really not the case with this placing that we've just conducted. What's happened is very simple. We came into this year with a very clear budget to take us into 2022. That was based on a specific work program, mainly geophys and geochem work that we were doing out in the field, and some drilling. But the drilling obviously was fairly limited. We put into the public domain this year was about proof of concept in the KSZ. We knew we were going to drill at least 2 holes, maybe 4, but that was really all the budget that we had available for that for this year, and obviously see what we could get from the core samples from the bottom of these Norilsk-style keels. Now, of course, I know you've been following the story very closely, so you know the progress that we've been making. And it's fair to say that so far the results that have come in from our surveying of this project, it's smashed our expectations out of the park. We obviously have this B1 target that we just announced on Friday evening. We got final confirmation from the independent expert that we've engaged to verify the data. That came through at lunchtime. We worked on that very hard in the afternoon and released the announcement as quickly as we could. So the simple fact is it's not a case that we needed the money, because we've got £1.5 million in working capital. But this is all about expanding aggressively our exploration program, and in particular doing much more drilling. We're one of the largest landholders in Botswana. We've got a huge area across our main projects areas in the Kalahari Suture Zone, the Copper Belt, and of course at Dittel. So we need to start behaving like a larger, more serious exploration company. And obviously the share price has been on a great run. We saw the strength of this target B1, which I hope we can talk about a bit more in a moment. And the opportunity was there to conduct a placing over the weekend, a minimal discount. And that's another point I really want to remind people about. We've done this raise at 5.5 pence, where, if you look at where our share price was a few months ago, while the rest of the market's been treading water, we've doubled. So for us to raise money at this level, I think it's a fantastic result for the company. Going into the weekend, I thought we'd probably get a million, maybe £1.5 million. As it turned out, we got 2 million, and it settles on a T20. So again, that emphasises we're not in any rush to get the money, but what this really does is tee us up for what I hope will prove to be an exceptional second half of the year.
Okay, so you've mentioned getting to a more serious position as a company and a very aggressive drilling campaign. Is it fair to say then that all of this money will be going into the ground?
Yes, good question. So pretty much yes. Now, I know that sort of normally companies will say when they raise money, they'll put in that euphemism for general working capital purposes, which of course means director fees. All of our PLC costs are covered. Those are in our existing budget. So the net funds that we receive from the placing of first equity, it is going into the ground, either through drilling or through more surveying. It looks like the TDEM technology that our partner Spectral Geophysics deploys for us, it looks like that's got a great deal of potential to unlock the KSZ. And of course, we have our teams in the field conducting other surveys and soil geochem lines. So yeah, this is going into exploration. This is all about really accelerating our efforts to make one or more major metal discoveries.
Okay. So the RNS also talks about a new target, namely the B1 target, which you mentioned just earlier. And this has a very high Siemens reading. Now, you explained about the Siemens reading in the last piece we did, where you showed us the table there. So you found this target, have you, by doing further TDEM. What can you tell us about it?
Well, it's great. I mean, I, I keep thinking about how I'm going to answer this question when people answer me, because obviously I'm a company director. I've got to be careful what I say. I've got to show an appropriate degree of measure. But look, we're extremely excited about it. We've published a table on our website a week or so ago, which gave sort of a comparative illustration of conductance readings of subsurface bodies. And what anybody who looks at that table will see on our Twitter feed, and it's also on the website, is that anything sort of between 1,000 to 10,000 Siemens, anything that's giving off that kind of conductance reading, suggests strongly that it's a massive sulfide target. Now, obviously, the higher the reading, the more likely it is that it's massive sulfide. So, to have a reading that at 8,200, which is towards the upper end of the range, near that 10,000 figure, at this stage is fantastic. Now, obviously, we can't make any guarantees about this. We've still got to go and put at least one hole into this target. It's 550-meter target depth. So that is an engineering challenge in its own right. And then, of course, we need to get the core up and then analyze that. But as things stand today, we are very, very positive about what we're looking at.
Okay. Now, I remember as well, last time we spoke, Ben, you said about the drills were about to mobilize and going for the attractive targets A2 and C1. How is that mobilization going? Are they on the way?
Yeah, they're on the way. So mobilised last week. They're a little bit behind schedule. We'd hoped that they would have got underway quicker than they did, but sometimes these things can run into delay. They're now in the process of unloading at the site. So we've put some pictures up on our Twitter feed today of various bits of equipment and the store shed being unloaded in the drill camp. So it is all progressing. I'm expecting that will all be finished in the next few days, and then it'll be a case of mobilising the rig to the first hole site at A2. Again, we've put a picture up on the Twitter feed which shows where A2 is going to be located, marked by a little stick with a little white handkerchief tied around it, and that always makes me laugh just thinking that could be the sort of the low beginnings of potentially an incredible hole.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're very nearing the point where we're going to be drilling.
Now, the RNS also mentions a possible strategic partnership discussion with Equity Drilling and the purchasing of possibly 2 drill rigs. So this sounds very intriguing. Can you elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, so it's we've been developing a relationship with the guys behind Equity Drilling for the last 8 months. Got to know them very well. Of course, we haven't worked with them firsthand yet, but they come with impeccable credentials and really, really strong reputation for having been very successful drilling across Africa. So they've drilled in pretty much every environment that you can imagine. They've obviously set up the drilling school in Botswana, which is the first internationally accredited drilling school in Africa. These guys' pedigree is there's no questioning it. Now, of course, we wanted to work with them, and that's part of our due diligence process. Let's see how this current project works out with the company that they set up called Mindea, which is a locally empowered firm. But so far, so good. In terms of the actual plan itself, we're not committing to anything firmly at this stage. It will be budget dependent and sort of dependent on sort of how this program goes, and of course whatever the final terms are. But one idea we are looking at is the possible acquisition of 2 rigs with all the support vehicles necessary, so those rigs could work as one team. Because the plan would then be that if we get to the point of finalising this deal, Equity Drilling would act as operator, and that's a really important point because the history of exploration companies that go into drilling is littered with the bodies of companies that have failed at doing this, where you've had geologists who've attempted to become drillers. They're 2 very, very distinct skill sets. But one of the real attractions of this potential partnership is that we'll be working with really serious, really experienced operators who really know their business. So again, it's a good relationship. Discussions are ongoing, and I hope that we'll be able to put together something really ambitious that will feed into the level of ambition within the company, and also the size of the company. We've got 13,500 square kilometres of prospecting licenses to go at. We need to be drilling a lot more holes and a lot more meters, and I think that this potential partnership with Equity Drilling will be what unlocks that for us.
Okay, good. So just a final question, Ben. You've said activities are ramping up. You've got a lot of money now to back all these activities. Can you give us a bit of a roadmap, sort of the plans, what people can look out for, some key things?
Yeah, of course. So the key things over the next few months, of course, is the drill campaign in the KSZ. So we need to finalise arrangements for drilling of B1. We've also got data that we're processing from the TDEM survey on B2. That was in today's announcement. Hopefully we'll have some more news around that very soon. So really our focus is very much on this drill program. There's a good sort of 3-4 months news flow to come out of that, from sort of commencement of drilling through to getting assay results. We then obviously need to see what happens. And part of the reason that we raised the money was, let's just say we do make a discovery or we have some very positive results. Since the drill rig is already in the area, that does give us an option on potentially drilling more holes into one or more of those targets. So again, no guarantees at the moment that this is what will happen, but we're in a great position now that, if the best does happen, we'll be able to continue to develop the project and prove up sort of what, well, I say prove up, I've got to be careful about the words I use, but hopefully identify a clear discovery. Once we've finished in the KSZ, the plan then is to mobilise immediately to the Kalahari Copper Belt. At that point, we should have our environmental management plan in play. We're looking at much shallower targets in the KCB, both in the Power Metals joint venture and also in the LVR joint venture. We have drill targets we've already identified in those, and we're doing further work in the field just to sort of zone in on the most attractive looking of those. But again, we've got very large scale potential discoveries to be made there. We know we're looking at copper mineralized systems. The question will be whether or not the copper that's there is economic. So it will be fairly straightforward for us to test that potential. And then finally, there's Dittel. I obviously have to pause for breath. We've got so much going on. But once we haven't got specific drill plans for Dittel just yet, it would be great if we could mobilise a rig to Dittel later on this year. But while we have this rig that's in the field, it doesn't make sense for us to get another rig at this stage and incur additional mobilisation costs. We don't feel that would be a good use of our funds. So we're planning on moving the current team around until they're taken up again a bit later this year, because they do have some other contractual obligations for some other major projects that they are signed up to. But again, this comes back to this potential partnership with Equity Drilling. What all of this emphasises is just how much drilling requirement we have across the entire company, and it's our goal to start to ramp that up significantly.
Okay. Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.